Hey kids, it's me again. This is the way we got to meet from now on, for just a little bit longer. Hopefully this will all end soon and y'all will be back in children's church and Miss Dodie will be right here with you and I'll get to see you instead of you just seeing me. Today I thought we'd talk about one of your favorite stories. It's from the Old Testament. It was before Jesus was born. And it was a very important thing that happened with a very young boy. He was a teenager. This teenager's name was David, and he was the youngest son of 8 brothers. He was the youngest, and he was a big help to his dad. He was the shepherd of the family. His other brothers went off to war. They were in a fight with the Philistines. They were the bad guys. And David stayed home to take care of the sheep. That was a hard job because you had to go with the sheep out into all the different fields, take care of them, guard them, watch over them, and just really be very careful with the sheep because sometimes wild animals would come and try to eat them. And David learned how to use a slingshot. It was this thing that you put a rock in it, you sling it over your head, and it kind of throws at the animal, and it either scares the animal away or sometimes it would hit the animal and they would run away and he would save his sheep. Well, one day his dad sent a man out to find David and the sheep. And the man said, go on back home to your dad. He needs you for an errand and I'll stay with the sheep. So David went back to his dad and his dad said, we need to take some food to your brothers. They're fighting in a war and I'll show you where you have to go. And I want you to take this food to your brothers so they'll have something to eat. And so David obeyed his dad, took the food, and started going out to find his brothers. Well, when he did find them, something was really different. They weren't fighting. They were standing at the top of the hill, all the men, and they were all looking down into the valley. And across from them, on the other hill that they could look right over to, there was the Philistines, the bad guys. And they were all standing around up there too. They weren't fighting. What was going on? So David gave his brothers their food and they said, now you go on home. But then David was going to go home. Then he heard something. There was a big man standing down in the valley. And he was yelling at the good guys, the Israelites. And he was saying, send me down a champion. Send me down one of your best men. Come down into this valley and fight me. And whoever wins will win the war. And David said, well, who's going down? And his brother said, we don't know who's going down, but look at him. He's 10 feet tall, which would make him taller than in your house. It would be taller than your ceiling. And he's very big. And not only that, but he had all kinds of covering on him. The armor he had on him. He had a hat or a helmet on. He had a big thing that covered his chest. He had things on his legs. How are you going to get him if he had all that covering on him? And so the men were afraid. They were afraid for 2 reasons. 1, they didn't want to get hurt by him. And 2, if they lost, that would mean they would lose the war. The war would be over and the Philistines, the bad guys, would win. David said, I'm not afraid. And his brother said, oh, David, you're too young. Go away. Go back home to Dad. But David insisted, no, I want to go talk to the king. So he did. He worked his way over to where the king was. And one of the men took him in and said, King Saul, this is a young man named David, and he wants to fight Goliath. That was the giant's name. And King Saul looked at him and said, oh, David, you're much too young. What can you do against a giant? And David said, I am a servant of God, and God is with me, and I have learned how to use my slingshot. I have hit lions and bears and all kinds of animals with my slingshot to save my sheep. Surely I could do something against Goliath. The king didn't know what else to do. He was at the end of his time. He just didn't know. So he said, all right, David, but let's get you all armored up. I'm going to let you use my armor. I'm going to put my helmet on you. I'm going to put my chest protector on you. I'm going to put all these things on you. But when they tried to put them on David, they were all way too big because he was just a teenager. And those things didn't fit him. And he said, I can't use this. I can't move in this. I have to be able to move in order to get my slingshot out. So they took all the armor away. David went down to a brook that was nearby and he got some rocks and put them in a sack that he had. And then he went down that hill. He walked down that hill and into that valley. And there was this huge man looking much bigger once he got down there than when it was from up on that hill. He was huge and he made fun of David. He said, why are you sending me this boy to fight me? What, there's no men up there willing to fight? You're going to send a boy? And David said, don't you worry about me. I come in the name of my God, the real God, the God of our people. I come. You come with me at a sword, but I have my God. Well, Goliath got very angry, and he pulled out his sword and he started running towards David. But David was very calm. He started running towards Goliath, and he pulled a rock out of his sack and put it into his sling and started swinging that sling above his head. And he swung it and he swung it, and all of a sudden he let the rock go, and it hit Goliath right in the perfect spot, right in the middle of his forehead. And he fell down, and he was dead. And David just looked, and all the Israelite soldiers, the good guys, were yelling and screaming and just so happy that it was finally someone went down there and he actually defeated Goliath. And all the Israelites started running down the hill and up the hill and chasing the Philistines. And at the end of the day, the Israelites had won. They won by the hand of God. God protected David and helped that rock go right in where it needed to go. Remember, he had on a helmet. And that rock just ended up in the exact place. So you know God was there taking care of David and making sure that Goliath died that day. And you know, I have to read this because I want to read it to you from the Bible. This is the thanks that David gave to God. This is called "The Lord is My Shepherd." This is one of King David's songs about God. He said, "The Lord is my shepherd. He gives me everything I need. He lets me lie down in the fields of green grass, and he leads me beside the waters. He gives me new strength. He guides me in the right paths for the honor of his name. Even though I walk through the darkest valleys, I'll not be afraid. You, God, are with me. Your shepherd's rod and staff, they comfort me. I am sure that your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever." That was his thanks to God for being with him through all the different things that David would face, not only during the times with Goliath, but many more times along the way. David would need the God of heaven, the real God, the only God. And you remember that. You can have God with you always also. Remember, we talked about prayer. Just talk to your God whenever you need to. I love you, and you take good care.